Hey, everybody, what is going on? This is Scott Garber back in the saddle of the Profluence Sports Podcast, where we are highlighting founders, investors, executives across the sports business landscape. Today, we're excited to go ahead and bring in our next guest, where we're going to be leaning into the ever fast growing side of golf. We are seeing new shapes, sizes, formats of golf hitting the landscape. And my man, Jake Hoselton, the co-founder of Grass League, is helping shape that landscape. Jake, my man, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Scott, thank you very much for having me. I'm doing great. I'm very excited to have this conversation, talk a little Grass League, talk a little golf, and get to know each other. Very stoked to be on the podcast.
Yeah, stoked to have you, my friend. And, look at Jake, if you don't live under a rock, you know that golf is having its moment right now. And we feel the whole world is sort of converging on the sport. But Jake, I'm going to put you sort of in that visionary class. It's not like Grass League just came around yesterday. So let's go ahead. We always like to understand the person at the helm. Would love to get a little background on you and sort of the origin story of Grass Clippings, which ultimately led to Grass League.
Yeah. There's a long story, and then there's like sort of a shortened version, because it's definitely evolved into where we are now, and that was never the intention at the beginning of Grass Clippings as a whole. We are born and raised in Phoenix, all of our co-founders, and we always say, like, if you're from San Diego, you surf, or you're part of surf culture. If you're from Phoenix, like, people golf here. This is one of the largest golfing hubs for professionals, for amateurs, for people that want to retire to play golf. Like, Phoenix has 250 golf courses within a 50-mile radius of the center. And so it's been a huge part of the fabric of our culture. Speaking on behalf of myself and my three other co-founders, we love the game. We love competing. We're all athletes, whether that was golf specifically or other sports, and just really, really deeply care about the game of golf itself and like competing. And so we started Grass Clippings in 2019. The true origin story was to create a brand, nothing more than a side hustle hat brand that gave recognition to the greenskeepers. And that's what Grass Clippings and Stay Grassy is. Part of the launch of that brand itself, to promote the brand and awareness, was we were going to have a golf tournament. We thought to ourselves, what is the most unique golf tournament that we really hadn't ever heard of? It was competition in a fun way, but big buy-in, really good players playing a two-person scramble on a par 3 course, and kind of recruited from around the valley all of the best golfers, had them come out and play in that format. We did a Calcutta, we did all of this stuff, just kind of built this event up. And after that event, the response from the players and what we saw was just, there's something here, both on the par 3 golf side of the actual course and the experience that we created. Par 3 golf shouldn't be an afterthought, and we should have awesome par 3 venues, because as golfers, we don't necessarily like going to play the non-green grass golf stuff. And then we were just we looked at par 3 golf in general, and the USGA didn't rate or slope golf courses less than 3,000 yards at the time. We're just we technically, under the governance of golf, didn't host a golf tournament because it's not part of the handicap system. So we saw this open waters opportunity to really attack par 3 golf as a standalone sport and market, right? A categorical approach to everything we're doing. And from there, that completely changed the trajectory of the company. We never forgot about the greenskeepers and Stay Grassy and all of that stuff. It lives through the brands of Grass Clippings. It lives through the brands of the Grass League, and it lives through the brand of the golf course. But our main focus is categorically taking over short golf from a real estate and a competition standpoint.
It's so neat. And I think so often, Jake, we just see the byproduct of what it's become. We don't always understand the mantra of Stay Grassy, right? And I think the greenskeeper is such an interesting persona to go ahead and lean into and ultimately build around. It's often forgot about, but I think that's where a lot of this opportunity, ultimately lies. And as a byproduct, Grass League has now come out of it. But for everyone who's not listening, not familiar, Jake, give us the foundation of what Grass League has ultimately become.
Yeah, so going back to that origin story, Grass League is a competitive, structured like a Major Five sports league, where there's franchises and rev share, and we can get all into all of that stuff. But it's literally a sports league as we know it that is applied to par three golf. And again, that's that categorical approach of creating league and competition formats where we can find out who the number one par three golfer in the world is, and we can find out who the best par three golf franchise in the world is, where these golfers come from. And so it's literally at, like I always just say, it's think of the NBA applied to par three golf, and kind of keep it that simple. If I've got 5 seconds to try and describe it to somebody.
Very cool. And I think we can all digest what that actually means, right? And so with you guys being rooted in Arizona, is there a strategy to, like as the league came to fruition, did you try and stay local and sort of mushroom cloud out? Were there strategic anchors that had more of a footing in par three infrastructure? Talk to us about sort of that initial moment when you went from, hey, we got something, to what's the next step? What did that look like?
Yeah, so the hat brand starts in 2019, and we are had that event in early 2019. All of this is happening. 3 years go by. We're hosting multiple of these events, and really two like parallel paths led us to where we are today. One was there wasn't a par three golf course out there that could host the scale at which we knew these tournaments were going to turn into. And what I mean by that is like an entertainment forward, lighted, just awesome, like entertainment golf mixture where you can have massive events at a golf course and it's not treated like a full length 18-hole golf course. And then the other was formalizing the Grass League, right? Where we were kind of just running these tournaments by the seat of our pants, like having these one-off events, but there was nothing to follow. There was nothing to track. There was no point system. There was no purses. It wasn't real. And so once the golf course was solidified and we won a RFP bidding process for a 50-year lease on a municipal golf course in Tempe, and separately capitalized that project. We raised $15 million of equity, completely redid and tricked out this par three golf course. And then on the Grass League side, we raised $1 million in March of 2023, and then sold the initial 10 teams into the league for the remainder of 2023. And at that point, we had built the infrastructure of the league where we have a sports league here. That was ahead of the 2024 season, which we geared up for. Media deal was in place, sponsors were in place, and we were really set for our first full season.
Wow. And for everyone listening, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of these events, if not all of them, take place at night under the lights. Like, it's a very unique experience. And I mean, Jake, and with no disrespect, I think this is a compliment, but it almost pulls in like what a LIV and a PGA, you guys have combined it. And it almost has that Savannah banana where you're pulling in the entertainment properties, but also marrying it with really solid golfers. Talk to us about, like, was that always the vision as this thing started to come to life, was just to experiment like hell and show up differently? A little bit about the night golf. Talk to us, like, how did you guys land there?
Yeah, so you think about any full-length golf tournament, PGA Tour, LIV Tour, people naturally gravitate toward the par three because you can see the chance at a hole-in-one, right? You can see every time the full hole play out from tee to green. You can sit in one place and watch the whole thing. Even on the digital side, the broadcast side, over 80% of golf shots you watch on a full-length broadcast of a PGA Tour event are from 150 yards and in, or from scoring distance and in. All of golf's greatest moments happen from that scoring distance. Call it 150 yards and in and around the greens. And you think about it on the pro side. You think the signature moments are Spieth chunking it into the water at the Masters, falling apart and losing the Masters. You think about Rory hitting into 18 and Tiger hitting into 18 at the Masters. You think about all of the drama that's happened on the 17th at Sawgrass, 16th at Waste Management. All of these iconic moments are actually on par threes. And that's where all of the entertainment is. Like, people go to par threes and they're going crazy looking for a hole in one. And so with our format, always competition, best golf is at the crosshairs of what we're trying to do. We want to continue to promote good golf, but anything outside the ropes, we want it to be complete mayhem. We want the fans to have music, food and beverage. They all hold louder signs. It's a complete like party, entertainment, just random stuff going on. DJs, food and beverage, art, culture, clothing, brands. That's what the experience is outside the ropes. So yeah, it's been super interesting to see take shape, because again, we needed our own venue to sort of make this happen. And so, you mix that with Under the Lights, then you really have something special here. And so we actually didn't launch the Grass League until we had our own venue secured. And that was in 2024 is when our place was first ready to hold an event, and actually just completed our first road show, meaning we took the Grass League on the road for the first time. We went to Goat Hill Park in San Diego. It was a bit of a smaller production than we do in Tempe, just because there was a lot of unknowns going on the road and sort of busting down the walls, bringing this league outside of Arizona for the first time. But Goat Hill proved to be one of those venues where basically there's no sound ordinance, no homes around the course, and you can kind of do what you want. So those are two major check boxes. And then we'll continue to look for other par 3 golf courses with lights primarily that can host these events.
No, it's really interesting. And I'm going to I can go a couple of different directions. So we'll start here. You mentioned this is a franchise model, right? And so as we continue to bring more teams into the Grass League, do you anticipate it just being a pure ownership of the IP, or do you want to replicate what you did in Tempe and start to have courses that are owned in franchise cities and now sort of have a mixed real estate play with it? How do you guys anticipate scaling this league, and what really comes with that as a franchise owner?
Yeah, so as a franchise owner, it's pretty much a membership into the league, right? Where all of these franchises sell. We're selling about one franchise per year for the foreseeable future. They're tied to markets, which we've seen in some cases, and some they aren't tied to markets, like the Live Tour. The real estate play definitely is a priority. It's a hard process. It's a little bit longer and not something that we have to have in order to be successful with the Grass League. Like, we can go to these venues that neither a franchise or the league owns and be successful with an event. But it's certainly something that's on our radar, is to incorporate the real estate component into these franchises. And in some of our franchise markets, we actually we got some action. It's going to happen. And so really at the core of what these franchises value creation is they join the Grass League. They get to have fun working with our brand partner, or if they have a branding department that wants to sort of brand the team within the guardrails of our brand book, they can create their franchise, right? They can basically choose the name, they can choose the logo, the colorway, and which market they want. Obviously, you got to get awarded the franchise. It's a competitive process. And then from there, it's really go any direction you want, or go every single direction. You can create a YouTube channel for your franchise. You can promote on social media. You can have your uniforms look like NASCAR, where you have all sponsors patched up all over it. You can obviously compete in the events. The purse money gets paid to the franchises, so you have a revenue opportunity and incentive to field the best golfers on your team. You participate in the league-wide rev share. So we have a 3-event season in the 2025 season. Like, the first event is worth 2,000 points. Second event's worth 3. Last one's worth 4. You're collecting points throughout the season, and the point system yields what % of the revenue share that you get from the league. So all league-wide revenue is fueling a revenue share pool that all of these teams are fighting for throughout the duration of the season. So there's a lot of different ways you can monetize your franchise. bunch of cool partnerships that have happened. And a lot of these franchise owners like have like an underlying reason or inspiration to own a team, right? Like the Scottsdale Strikers are owned by Riot Hospitality, right? Basically, if you go have a beer in Old Town Scottsdale, you're at a Riot Hospitality hotel or club or restaurant or entertainment place of any kind. And so they have really incorporated the Strikers into their hospitality company.
Super
And
cool.
we have certain brands. We have Good Golf that owns the Dallas Horsemen, right? So there's a lot of different like use cases in ownership structures and syndicates and cool, interesting cap tables that are a part of these franchise ownership groups.
Which I think is so neat, right? When we get the opportunity to talk to a lot of folks that are building leagues at various stages, but it's always neat when you're able to go ahead and leverage an ownership position and tie that back into the larger mission of what Grass League is ultimately doing, right? You can connect the dots with a good distribution and now having them as a team owner or franchise owner, and now we're creating win-win scenarios, which I think is sometimes hard to do when carving out new formats of whatever sport that may be. So kudos to you guys there. Jake, let me ask you this, right? When we think about it, you have the ownership side of things, but then we have the talent side of things, right? And so seemingly if you play golf at a high level, like you would be a candidate for the Grass League. How do you guys narrow down and select talent and then ultimately develop it, as this is a niched and nuanced, portion of the game?
Yeah, so the franchises have the ability to roster any golfer on their franchise, right? The only rule that the league has itself is that the player has to be 18 years or older to compete. So that opens the window for amateurs, professionals, men, women of any single age that are able to compete in the Grass League. They can get rostered by a franchise. It's a similar like free agency and signing window that you see in major 5 sports leagues, where the franchises before the start of the season roster their golfers, and then they sort of have some guardrails on how and when or if they can keep those players on their rosters and how they compete in the events and how they select them. The main thing for a golfer who is not currently on a roster in the Grass League to find themselves on a roster is the qualification process and tournament system that we have, that we are actually expanding in a huge way into our 2026 season to ultimately play in a qualifier, become eligible to get drafted by a team, go to the Grass League draft, and then get picked up by a franchise. So basically for the 2025 season, that's exactly what we did. We introduced it for the first time where 108 two-person teams competed for 25 spots. So top 25 of 108 teams became draft eligible, and the franchises were required to draft two-person teams onto their franchise. So the start of the season, they rostered 10, and then they drafted 4 golfers onto their franchise. And it was set up and operated and covered exactly like, keep going on the NBA thing, but the NBA draft, right? Where with the first pick in the 25 Grass League draft, the Tampa Bay Swamp Dogs select and the players come up, throw on the hat and sign a rookie deal into the season.
How cool, man. And let me ask you this, right? Like from starting a golf brand that was really leaning into greenskeepers to then hosting a draft and creating a footprint in golf of growing the game and not just talking about it, but actually doing it. And now, creating a foundation of something that has real legs. Jake, what's that moment like? I think so often we talk about, what's next, where are we going? What did we learn from? Like when you're standing there at that draft and you watch this come to fruition, put us in your shoes for a second, man. What was that moment like with you and your co-founders?
Yeah, it's definitely hard to do. It's very important to take a moment to look around and see the success, because we are just entrepreneurs. We're wearing a million hats, going a million miles an hour. But I think at the core is like my older brother Jimmy Hoselton, who's my co-founder, and was a professional golfer that was trying to make it on the PGA Tour back in the formative years of this company. And through that, we know a ton of up and coming professional golfers that want to compete on a stage. and seeing the struggle and seeing the difficulty to make it happen, and sort of the politics and financials that go into it that make it so difficult kind of strikes a heartstring for all of us at the Grass League. And the most impactful thing is seeing some of these golfers that are, whether they're up and coming or they're on the far end of their career, like they won on tour 20 years ago and they don't get starts anymore. Seeing the players like kind of have a resurgence and have an opportunity to compete, play in front of fans on live TV, wearing a uniform, that is, as a golfer, that is one of the most impactful things that I think when we take a step back and look around that we've created. Like it's a true opportunity for these golfers to make money and continue and forward their career. And then, yeah, I mean, just all of the things that we know from behind the scenes that ultimately got to this point, like it's kind of hard for people to know, but like, you look around at all of these franchises, and to take the draft, for example, right? All of the franchises had their table with their franchise on the table, and they were on the phones talking to things. They were making trades. And just looking at like the branding and some of the life that has come to these franchises, and the groups of friends that have been created from these franchises, like these close-knit teams that didn't know each other 2 years ago, and we sit and look at it and we're like, I remember when we were choosing if we liked that Phoenix United logo or the other one. And now here it is, and it's a living, breathing organism. So I think that's sort of like the victory moments that, maybe seem underwhelming, but it's just cool to see it come to life.
Yeah, man. And I appreciate you sharing. And I think it's important as builders for us to be able to stop and smell the roses sometimes. We're always talking about what we're doing next. But truly what you guys have been able to do with what seems obvious now, but I don't think was so obvious 5 or 6 years ago. And what you've carved out in the par 3 lane it's truly creating new pathways. And as we watch traditional infrastructure continue to get rocked, it's really neat to watch a version of this game look and feel like how I grew up playing golf, which is really cool.
Right.
And so big kudos there. I got a couple fast questions for you as we start to turn the corner and bring this thing home. Jake, there's this ongoing conversation. If you get a hole-in-one playing a round of par 3 golf, is it a legit hole-in-one? What is your guys' take on that over at the Grass League?
It's legit hole-in-one. I'm actually a use case of that. My only hole-in-one is on a par 3 course. I tell people, yes, I have hit a hole-in-one, but sometimes it keeps me up an extra 5 minutes at night.
I'm still yet to make one, but you bet your ass I'm going to be, par 3 or not, I'm going to be screaming it from the rooftops. As we start to look at more and more folks coming into this space, we see TGL, we see LIV, we see, a myriad of other par 3s. Jake, talk to us over the next sort of 12 to 24 months. You guys talk about expansion of franchise. What else is on the horizon from Grass League that us as patrons can be on the lookout for?
So we are launching the 2026 season. We're going to be announcing the schedule and the new stops and the new ways for golfers to be a part of the 2026 season and fans. We are selling our 12th franchise into the league. So we got an expansion franchise that'll be announced before the end of the season. We're actually bringing on a new commissioner by the end of the year as well. Kind of knowing what we know and knowing what we don't. We know we're great entrepreneurs. This league is seasoned to a point where a veteran sports industry commissioner can take the reins and really go do some damage out there. So really looking forward to a commissioner coming on board.
Jake, real quick, I want to dive in on that point if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Collectively, you have co-founders on this. And this is, I feel like, one of the inflection points of the entrepreneurial journey is you've taken this baby as far as you can go. And now we got to bring in someone to get us to the next level. What was that internal process like as you guys started to make that, what I think feels like a monumental decision for the league?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was on the roadmap from the inception. I think we knew what needed to happen in the formative years. We knew we wanted to and probably needed to set the tone and set the vibe and be the first ones to host the tournaments and kind of create the energy that we want at it. But we also know now, and we knew then, that we weren't going to be the ones that were going to be best at carving a, multi-million, tens of million, billion-dollar media deal with the major media players. From a sponsor and entitlement standpoint, like, it's a very intricate business. It's not like, here's our product and this is what it costs. It's like there's everything all together all at once. And it takes someone with just deep experience and understanding of the market and media and fan building, and also staying in our lane of like product. I think we've found product market fit. And it's like, how do you find the right person that can take that, not change it, and go back to like what they knew when they were at some other league or some other industry, but champion it and continue to drive it through walls. So we always knew it was coming. I was actually the commissioner in the formative years, CEO, commissioner. It was kind of all just one. And now I just took a step back as we go through this transition process from my commissioner role. And we will be installing that person in the next couple of months. Nice. So that is something that's on the market right now. And it's an interesting position there. That person's in for one. It's a fast moving, dynamic environment that honestly couldn't be more exciting, and it's an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think that, it's a privilege from an entrepreneurial lens to hit that threshold. But nonetheless, if you're not protecting the mission, which we talk about so much, and you bring in the wrong person, it could be a pivotal moment that could take the league in a very different direction. Then we're dealing with different problems or opportunities, however you look at it, right?
For sure.
Very cool. Back to 26, and then I got one more question to bring us home. Anything else outside of bringing in new commissioner? Sorry for the detour there.
2026 is going to be action-packed. We've got the new franchise that'll be competing in that season. We have we talked about the qualifying system. We now have regional qualifiers that'll be feeding the Scottsdale qualifier. So you can play on the East Coast, Middle America, or West Coast. If you make it through that stage, you'll come to Scottsdale, play in another qualifier to ultimately get you to that draft. So our touch point is going to be more with, 500 to 1,000 golfers competing from the start to get to the draft and onto a team, rather than what this past year was right around 200 golfers. So huge, impactful increase in the footprint of golfers involved. Changing media landscape. We're adding a match system into the league. So rather than just sort of these large scale tournaments, the franchises are going to be competing in one-on-one head-to-head matches amongst each other throughout the entire 26 season. We launched that on YouTube in this 2025 season, but it wasn't part of the point system. So we're incorporating those matches into the point system. So these franchises will constantly have action throughout the entire year, playing head-to-head matches. That's part of the season. So really looking forward to that into 2026, and then just growing. Like, every single tournament thus far has just about like doubled in everything, like revenue, spectators, it's gotten larger in scale every single time. So these events they're just kind of getting crazy and fun, and there's thousands of people out there, and we haven't had a tournament that didn't have just an unbelievable finish and impactful moment. The more fans there are, the louder those roars are going to be. So it's going to be a cool season.
I love it. I'm excited to get out and check it out. As we talked about before we hopped on, know a couple of the players on tour. So been following, but they say there's nothing like getting that energy in person. So definitely going to have to make it out there to Tempe and check it out. Jake, last question from my side, and this is putting more of the entrepreneurial hat on, right? You're spinning a bunch of plates, you're juggling a bunch of different objectives for the business. I'm curious from the learning lens. Who is your mentor? Where do you go to get advice? What books are you reading to make sure that you're staying sharp on the game as you're, sort of navigating this whole organism, as you referred to it earlier in the show.
Yeah, I would say my learning lens is honestly through the golfers. I constantly talk to you know, golfers that are either top 10 in the world on the PGA Tour, um, or have been X tour winners that, you know, could have done something different or wish there was a different opportunity. And then up and coming golfers that are young and hungry, men and women that are trying to compete. Honestly, those have been my mentors because that's ultimately what we're building for. Like fans, they will get excited about good golf, and that's the bet we're making. That's the long-term bet. And so if we can constantly do things that are driving opportunity for the best golfers to be intrigued and excited to play in the grass league, then the fans will follow that, right? And there's a little on both sides there. Like the golfers want to follow what the fans want to see, yes. But for this league to turn 100 years old, we have to keep competitive, good golf at the crosshairs. And so honestly, that's been my number one focus is how do we make this the best environment for golfers to compete? And so
That's cool.
that.
No, it's cool. I mean, I think with that directive, it's a winning strategy, right? And, as long as we double down on one and protect the integrity of the sport, and grow and evolve while, honoring the tradition of what it was, I think that there's a ton of opportunity on the horizon, and you guys are proving that day in and day out. I mean, Jake, from the Profluence team, thank you guys for growing the game the way you guys are. There's a lot of different personas that listen to this podcast. Jake, if someone's interested in a pod or in a franchise or learning more about the league, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, grassleague.com has all the information, whether you're a player, you're a prospective owner of a franchise, you want to get in touch with the franchises, you can pretty much find any avenue there on grassleague.com. I would definitely, from a fan perspective, encourage to go follow our YouTube and subscribe on the Grass League YouTube. There's a lot of cool, exciting stuff that we're really doubling down on from this point forward on YouTube. And yeah, I think please hit us up if you're a player, sponsor, owner, just want to be involved as a fan. Grass League's an awesome thing happening in golf for sure.
I love it. And these guys say what they mean and mean what they say. So not empty words or promises. And, I can tell you firsthand that the coolest thing that we're observing in this new wave of building is the collaboration behind it. So closed mouths don't get fed. If you guys are interested in learning more about Grass League, please reach out to Jake and his team. They're doing incredible things over there. Jake, again, from the Profluence team, thank you guys for what you're doing, and excited to get out to Tempe and come check out a Grass League event in person.
Awesome, Scott. Thanks so much for having us.
Sounds
Really
good. We'll do it again
it.
soon. Talk soon.
Cool.